So, what do communicable diseases and vice presidential nominee JD Vance have in common? Well, in a poll released just recently by the Institute of Politics at the Harvard Kennedy School, it offers some comparative contrasts in the upcoming presidential race. None of them would be more disquieting for JD Vance than their summation of the results, which show JD Vance's poll numbers of voters polled between the ages of 18 and 30, youth poll. These poll numbers show vice presidential nominee JD Vance potentially polling just ahead of herpes.
Herpes simplex. 2/3 of the world it infects, includes skin and mucous membrane lesions found on mouth and tongue or in genital regions.
Talk about showing the love, huh? Well, as you'll see in today's report, we're going to cover the recent Harvard youth poll that shows JD Vance finding himself at the very bottom of that polling. By comparative analysis, he's just behind the sexually deviant North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson and the sexually transmittable virus herpes.
Oh my God, look at you! You're more herpes than dog!
Now there's a viral story for you. Well, this one may well be too, because it does include Adolf Hitler, backroom porn video booths, and Sean X-Pac Waltman. How can that be, you may ask? Stick around, because our story today, while it will focus especially on the Harvard youth poll numbers that show the measurable results of really what's been Jethro Vance's incredibly hard work over the past months to woo and charm the American public.
Should a woman be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape? We want women and young boys in the womb to have the right to life. I think two wrongs don't make a right.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
I also think, there's something comparable, between abortion and slavery.
What a guy, huh? And apparently, I'm not the only young person that thinks so. According to a recent Raw story, women like North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, the gubernatorial candidate, recently linked to boasts of an affair with his wife's sister on a porn site more than former President Donald Trump's own supporters like running mate Senator JD Vance. A new analysis contends. The Bulwark Wednesday heaped scorn on Vance over recently released Harvard youth poll data that found he is only viewed favorably by 18% of voters between the ages of 18 and 30. Editor Jonathan V. Last contrasted this data to an Elon University poll that found 27% of North Carolina women view Robinson favorably. The guy who says the Holocaust was overblown and Hitler was great, who wants to own slaves, who is a frequenter of backroom porn video booths, and who bragged about banging his wife's sister, that guy is able to get 27% favorable with women in North Carolina, wrote Last. But JD Vance is stuck at 18% among people who are basically his same age. The Harvard poll also put Trump's favorability rating at 31% and Vance's unfavorability rating at 46%, the data showed. According to Last's analysis, this means that almost half the people who like Donald Trump don't like JD Vance. Last explained this phenomena by likening Vance to a notorious pro wrestler named Sean X-Pac Waltman, who drew a specific type of response or heat from the audience. While all wrestlers seek to elicit heat, be it cheers for the faces or boos for the heels, another kind of reaction is less desirable. It's called X-Pac heat. This is where the audience boos and insults the wrestler not just because they are a heel and they hate the gimmick, explains the Sportster. They boo because they hate the wrestler, unrelated to the character or gimmick they are portraying. It is also reportedly called Go Away heat and was expressed by a pro wrestling fan sign that read, "Sir, I feel compelled to stress that we are not booing because of your effective heel work. We are booing because you are simply awful." This is the sentiment Last argued Americans hold for Vance. This Harvard poll did not test favorability ratings for the Taliban or Vladimir Putin or herpes, Last wrote. If they had, I'm sure all three would have been less popular than JD Vance, but not by much. So Vance is beating herpes by a whisker. Well, funny as that may be, you know there are worse things than herpes that are also contagious, like racism, sexism, and jingoism. Well, those can be spread even more easily because they're all airborne, and they infect the brain. But take heart, JD, in separate polls of leading spreaders of infectious rhetoric, why, you young man, you top the charts. For the rest of us, well, protect yourself this November and get vaxxed right here.